Hi, my name is Uriel Mesa and I'm with KTSLifeCoaching.com. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about manifestation again. This is something that I really try to get people to fully understand how easy this process is. It is quite literally elementary, but you have to do the work. It's like if you're trying to lose weight, you have to actually do the work to make it happen. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, but before we get started, I just wanted to ask you to please share, like, and subscribe to my channel. This is how I build my community, and I'm here for you. So anyway, let's get started. So manifestation. It is quite literally one of the easiest things that we can do, but I think as humans, we make this very difficult for ourselves. And there is a myriad of reasons why we do this to ourselves. So some of it is that you have a fear of failure. You have a fear of what are people going to think. So you have a fear of judgment. And there's some of us, like yours truly, for many, many years, I had a fear of success. Ironically, I was not afraid of failure because it had been happening to me most of my life. But the fear of success was something that I was completely just oblivious to. I didn't know what that was like to truly be successful. So I'm going to start with talking about the most elementary one, and that is repetition, repetition, repetition. Let's say I'm going to use the driving scenario that most of you, I'm going to guess, had no clue how to drive a car, especially a stick shift. But once you started to learn how to drive, at the beginning you become very, very conscious of where you place your feet onto the pedals, how you hold the steering wheel. Where are you looking? Well, these days the cars are a lot different, so they have you don't necessarily use the mirrors, but you use the cameras and stuff. At the beginning, most of us think, how am I going to do this? There's so many things that I have to look out for. After a few weeks, it starts to get easier and you become less tense, a little bit more relaxed, and you kind of start to feel like, okay, I get how this works. I understand how to keep myself in the lane. I understand how to change lanes. I have even learned how to parallel park. When I first started driving, I learned how to drive on a stick shift. And quite literally, the day I bought my car from the car lot where I bought it from, I had no idea how to drive a stick shift. But I knew I was going to try to make it happen at some point. So I tried to drive this car off the lot. I think I probably killed it several times. Finally got it onto the street, and I put it in the second gear, and I think I drove all the way home on second gear, which that's not real good to do, but I was afraid to try to switch gears. I thought I made the biggest mistake buying this car because I thought I will never figure out how to drive this car. Well, I had asked my friend who came with me to please come with me to learn how to drive this thing. And he said, this is what I will do for you. I will drive this to a gas station right now. And after that, I'm going to take you home. I'm picking up my car and I'm just going to let you loose and you're going to figure this out. Remember, we had a big fight about it. I mean, I was 16, 17 years old. And he left. And I felt like, well, I don't have much of a choice, so I'm going to have to figure this out. After a few hours of stops, starts, you slamming on the brakes and all that goes along with learning how to drive a stick shift, I started to get the hang of it. After a few days, it was becoming easier. By about maybe a couple weeks, maybe a month or something like that, it's been a long time, so I'm trying to recall everything. I was doing everything very second nature. I was consciously competent at that point. I was aware that I have figured out how to drive this car. After a few months, I was unconsciously competent. So in other words, it just became second nature. I didn't have to think about it. And because I've been doing it again and again and again and again and again, it was easy. This is how learning some of these techniques should become eventually. So the thing that you want, okay, I'm going to give you an example here. This is one of the things that I did, or I should say, this is the thing that I had learned, and that is that you are the architect of your own life. How do you want it to be? How do you want to feel? Where do you want to live? Who do you want to live with? What is it that you want to do more than anything? What is the service that you want to provide to people? What is the number as far as the amount of money you want to make? And that one, I cannot stress this enough. You do not want to say things like, well, if I lived in a different city, or if I didn't have kids, or if I wasn't married, or if I wasn't partnered up, or whatever. What is your number? What is it you want more than anything? Be honest with yourself. Chances are, if you say that I want to be an NBA player, but you're only 5'8", it's probably not going to happen. But there's something behind that if you're not honest with yourself what you want, you're not going to figure out what's behind that. Maybe if you want to be an NBA player, maybe you're somebody that you like instant gratification. Maybe you like athleticism. Maybe there's something in the sports world that really lights you up. Who knows? But whatever it is, you have to be honest with yourself as to what it is. So what you do is you start to write down what it is you want, who you're with, blah, 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 blah. You're quite literally designing your life. And when I first did it, I think I had a page, front and back. I think now I have over 20 pages of what it is I want. And it's everything from what are the ideas that I have? What exactly what exactly do I want my life to be when I'm 88 years old? And maybe by then I might be on my deathbed, or maybe by then I'll probably retire for the first time ever. What is the impact that I want to leave behind? What is the program, I'll just say that, the program that I want people to take over once I'm gone from here. Whatever it is, you get to decide what it is. And if you suffer from that phobia, you're always afraid of what other people will think, this will never happen. Manifesting all of this, because in most cases, it's so outrageous. It's so, what's the word I want to say? Audacious? I'm not really sure, but whatever it is. If you're not dreaming big, you're not going to live big. You have to dream and think the way a multi-millionaire, maybe a billionaire, maybe somebody who is one of the highest paid, I don't know, whatever it is you want to be, the highest paid rock star, one of the most well-known artists of the world, maybe one of the greatest philosophers, or whatever it is you want to be. Think and act like them. Be like them, because, and I've said this 1,000 times, if you're acting like someone, that is just a part-time gig. When you be like them, you're literally embodying them, right down to some of their values even. Think the way they do. Ask yourself, this person that I admire so much, what do they do first thing in the morning? Obviously, you're not going to know this, but you get to design how you think they probably behave, just from what you've heard or read about them. What do you suppose they do in the morning? Do they meditate? Do they grab their phone and watch TikTok for 4 hours first thing in the morning? I'm guessing probably not. But maybe they do meditate. Maybe they eat an incredibly nutritious breakfast. Maybe they do the polar plunge first thing in the morning to remind their body that their mind is the one in charge, not the body. Maybe they go to the gym afterwards, or maybe they have their own gym. Maybe they start to write down what are some of the ideas that they're going to talk about on that day, and who they will surround themselves with when they have a collaboration of thoughts. Again, this is all in the realm of service. And then maybe ask yourself, who do they surround themselves with? What type of people? Are these people who are catty, backstabbers, or people who just have low-level energy? Or these people that are just the movers and shakers, that are always doing something, always coming up with the next best thing, greater solutions, or just ways of how to make humanity a better place? Ask yourself these questions so you can get a clearer picture of how you want to create your life. Now, earlier I was talking about repetition. When you start to create a paradigm for yourself, so a habitual way of being and thinking, you want to create a repetitive behavior, habits, which is what a paradigm is basically a collective thoughts and habits and stuff that you have for yourself. And you want to start using that, or doing those, I should say. Make sure that the paradigm or the habits that you create are getting you closer to where you want to be, not keeping you stuck or keeping you where you've been. So if the first thing you think, I don't know who you might think, let's just say, I don't know, I'm going to make this up. I don't know why I can't think of it. Tony Robbins, we'll just say that, Tony Robbins. The way you picture him or his life is that you think he probably wakes up first thing in the morning, does a polar plunge, does a 45 minutes of meditation, eats breakfast, works out, does all this before 7 a.m. And then he starts writing out new ideas, new concepts, gets a hold of some of the most powerful people in the world, collaborates with them on things that they need to do, again, to make the world a better place, blah, 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 blah. If you are not modeling after some of these habits, then chances are you're probably doing things that are pulling you back down. So if the first thing you do is, if you're a smoker, you grab your smokes and you start smoking. Then after that, you'll sit there with your phone, cigarette in hand, and you'll scroll, doom scroll, whatever they call that, for the next 2-3 hours. Then when you feel like it, then maybe you might watch a little bit TV. Maybe you might read a magazine. And then maybe eventually you'll get ready to go to work. And you do this all up until noon, because you don't wake up until 9. Ask yourself, is the paradigm or my habitual habits right now getting me closer to where I want to be? Or are they pulling me back or keeping me stuck? My guess is that it's probably keeping you stuck. And you need to probably change some of these habits. So again, create your new paradigm. Make sure that these are habits, habitual habits, that are starting to elevate you even more, get you closer to where you want to be. Now, one of the things that I had mentioned earlier today about the things that might hold you back, I'm going to guess that the majority of you are afraid to fail. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. If you are not failing, you are not growing. I'm going to say that one more time. If you are not failing, you are not growing. You have to fail in order to learn. It would be the equivalent if you are at the gym and let's say you're doing push-ups, and as soon as it gets hard, you stop. So if you stop, you're not pushing through the part where it's difficult, where your muscles are starting to tear down a little bit more. When your muscles tear down a little bit more, that's when growth starts to happen. Your muscles will react by getting stronger and larger. But they won't do that if you stop right when things get difficult. Same thing with everyday things. When things get difficult, most of you stop. But this is when you have to power through and just keep on going. If something's not working, try something different. Allow yourself or teach yourself how to become more resourceful. Try different things. Try a different way. Do not be afraid to fail. Expect it. Embrace it. Know that it's coming, because if you're not failing, you're not growing. Okay? Now, another thing that keeps people from growing, and that is the fear of success. I'm guilty of that one. For years, when things were going good for me, I would self-sabotage. I did not know that this was an actual thing until I got to be in my 40s and early 40s, and then I started reading Gay Hendricks' book. What was it called? Okay, well, I remember his name at least. Gay Hendricks' book when he talks about upper leveling. And my upper level issue was that I was afraid of failure. I was so accustomed to failing again and again and again and again and again that this was normal for me. This was familiar for me. When things went better than expected, I thought, okay, well, that was weird. But when they got really good, I would self-implode. And honestly, every time that happened to me, I was actually, to be completely honest, I was actually relieved that it happened. What I had learned was that I didn't think that I could handle any big level of success. I didn't know how, because it was so foreign to me. I had little wins here and there throughout my life, up until I got to be in my 40s. And that was enough. So I was playing, what did they say, with a low bar. I didn't know how to level up. I had no idea. Now, I'm constantly forcing myself to level up. And have I had a few meltdowns here and there? 100%. I have had meltdown after meltdown after meltdown. Believe it or not, what that is growth. And what that is also, I'm forcing myself to expand, to be better. And growth does not feel comfortable. In fact, it actually hurts. It's humiliating a lot of times. And when you grow and then all of a sudden you have a major setback, not because of fear of success, but just sometimes that happens, I had to learn how to look at things objectively and say, okay, let's figure out what just happened here. Much like a mathematician will try to figure out at the end of a major equation is to why didn't he get the answer that he was looking for? You have to go back and figure out what where it went wrong. That can be very, very humbling. For me, oh my gosh, hugely humbling. But again, you practice and you practice and you practice and you practice. This becomes normal. After a while, I had learned not to insert an emotion to this. In fact, I had to learn how to look at things objectively and just not take it personally. And that was really difficult. But again, I look back at my life even just 10 years ago, and I am not even close to the same person anymore. I don't think the way I used to. I don't act the way I used to. I'm still me to the core. But I don't look at my life as limited. I don't look at things as being fearful. I say yes to a lot more things because I'm not afraid to try things anymore. I allow myself to expand. I allow myself to take up space in my environment, and I allow myself to be vulnerable most of the time. And it feels pretty amazing. It's weird. Sometimes I say to myself, I wish I would have learned this in my 20s and 30s. But clearly I was not ready for this. Things will happen when your energy lines up with the thing that you want. I give the example of the opera singer holding the wine glass. When their voice sinks to the whatever it is that when you ping that wine glass, you hit ding, and then your voice lines up to that, and then the vibration hits it perfectly, and then it shatters the wine glass. It's kind of the same way. You align to the thing that you want, and then all of a sudden, when the wine glass explodes, same thing. The thing that you wanted starts to appear. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is how will you know if this is even working? For me, has been my experience is that when I realized things were starting to work was when I would do my meditations, I would do my journaling, I would sit for a couple hours a day sometimes and write out the thing that you want more than anything and how you will feel and act and be once you achieve the thing you want. I started to realize that I felt different. It was almost as though everything around me seemed brighter and clearer. And I don't want to say I was afraid, but I was probably a little bit more courageous when it came to trying different things, testing something out to see if it would work, and if it doesn't, oh well. One of the hardest things for me is to do this, what I'm doing right now. To be able to sit and talk in front of the screen of my phone. I am the kind of person that I can connect so well with someone one-on-one. This is why I am going to toot my own horn. I'm very good at what I do as far as a coach. I'm very, very good at listening for the undertone of stuck or limited thinking. And I can stealthily and lovingly draw it out and hold it here and say, okay, this is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm seeing. What do you think? And then I allow my client to decide what they think about that. The thing that I just pulled out of them when I say, here's your limited thinking, here's your limited thoughts, here's the things you've been saying, the story you've been telling yourself. How do you see this now? Okay, I got a little bit off track again. I'll get back on. Again, what I've noticed is that I start to think differently. I start to see myself differently. I even will allow myself to act differently, act as if. And it's strange because I can say firsthand that yes, it does work. I've had time after time after time after time where there was something that I wanted, something that I needed. And I would say, what is it that you want? And I'd say it. And then I'd think to myself, okay, but what's behind that? And then I realized what it was. Then I started to draw it out. What is it about that that's so important to me? I draw it out. Now, when I say draw it out, I mean, I write it out. And I get real honest with myself. When it comes to manifestation, you want to work from backwards. The thing that you want, get crystal clear, because again, you designed it, you're the architect. You get to write out what it is you want, how it's going to feel once you've achieved, or how it's going to feel, what it's going to look like once you achieved your ultimate goal. And then you think about what's behind all that, and that's going to be your focus. 100%, 24/7, be it, live it, feel it, keep writing about it, keep adding to it. It starts out first in the mind, and then it slowly, in your environment, will start to reflect it back. It is amazing how, if there's something that I want, all of a sudden these people appear out of nowhere. Some of them quite literally right under my nose, where somebody that I've seen around, talked to for a long time, and somehow I find out that, oh, this is the person that can help me. People will come out of the woodwork that'll help you get to where you want to be. Things will start to, if you will, shape and align with the thing that you need or want more than anything. Allow it to come to you. Allow it to help you out. Sometimes, this has happened a handful of times, is when you get really good at this, your heart or your stomach will say, this is what you want to do. This is where you want to go. This is the person you need to pay attention to, because that person is going to help you. And it seems to, logically, it doesn't make any sense. How is this person going to help me? What do they know? For some reason, my stomach is telling me one thing and my head is telling me something else. I have learned that if I go with what my gut tells me, so far, it's 10 for 10, it has not let me down. Some of the billionaires, millionaires, people that I've read about have talked about this, that they rely heavily on what their gut tells them. They've gotten so good at it that when they get that feeling inside their stomach that this is where they need to go, this is what they need to do, they don't question it, because they already know that this is what they have to rely on, not this. This right here, I'm pointing down to my stomach. Pay attention to your environment, because your environment is the constant feedback mechanism for you that's letting you know if you're on the right track. If you've been doing this for several months and you're still doing the same thing, chances are you're probably doing something where you're just kind of spinning your wheels. Again, be honest with yourself as to what it is that you're doing and what you would need to do to change to go forward. Sometimes it's letting go of something that has been the very thing that's been holding you back. I have had, in my coaching career, I've had a handful of people that they realized that they had a spouse or a long-term partner that has been holding them back more than anything. I even had one guy who he worked for a company where he was making multi six figures. And he just up and left and said, I now realize that I have to let go of this in order to be even better, to have exactly what I want. So sometimes there are things that you have to let go of in order to power forward. Now, and there's many times where the thing that you let go of financially made more sense than where you're headed right now. But sometimes you have to kind of go down and then you come shooting right back up. But again, you have to have faith. Much like I think those of us who are old enough to remember Indiana Jones, where there's that scene where he was supposed to cross, I don't know what it was, like a sort of a cliff or whatever you call it. And there was a voice in his head saying, you have to have faith. And so he took that first step, and then suddenly the first step appeared. Then he took the next step, and then the next step appeared. But before that, there was no bridge, there was no steps, no nothing, just a cliff. So it's a leap of faith that we have to take. And that is what you have to do in order to get to where you want to go to. Take that leap of faith. Set aside your ego. Don't worry about what other people think of you. The only thing that you care about, or that you should care about, is the thing that you want more than anything. Keep in mind, this is your life. You're still here. There is still time for you to have and be and do the things that you've always wanted to do. Now you have to just set fear aside, set your ego aside, and just let it happen. Make huge mistakes along the way. Because if you make big mistakes along the way, that means that you're probably going to learn quicker and things are going to happen faster. So anyway, okay, I'm babbling again. All right, so again, my name is Uriel Mesa, and I'm with KTSLifeCoaching.com. And as always, it is a pleasure speaking to you all. Have a great day.